All right, guys, welcome back to Doop's Closet. Today we have an awesome guest. We have the Peace Stealer. This guy is very near and dear to my heart. He's helped me through my ascension journey many a times. This man is a highly trained astrologer and an intuitive. He has plenty of other projects he's got going on, so I'm just going to let him introduce himself. Go ahead.
Much appreciated for the introduction. I'm very honored. And yeah, it's your boy, the Peace Dealer. I'm kind of experimenting with the title Lightning Sage when people ask, what is it I do? Or professional magician, just so I can kind of like be out there enough for people to either think I'm completely delusional or somewhat mystical. But yeah, very I'm very grateful that I could help with your ascension journey.
Yeah, man. Dude, you just gave me a lot of clarity on a lot of things, and it was awesome.
Sweet.
Me personally, title wise, I try to go for way shower. Uh, but
Nice.
lightning sage, that's some dankness right there. I dig it. Are you ready to open up for questions?
Oh, absolutely. And the only thing that I ask is that please don't feel like you have to hold back for my sake. You're welcome to ask anything you want.
Awesome. I like an open book. I like lots of questions. So we'll start off with how did you see yourself as a kid? Like describe your childhood just a little bit.
You know what? It's interesting because like it's not until recently I'm starting to think about stuff I would have been revealed as a kid or would just say subconsciously, and how, it reinforces a lot of realizations I'm making about myself now, in the sense where like um I've been so busy seeking something that I've always had within. And I just always hated hearing that. That was always corny to me. I always felt like, oh, like, I wanted like instant results for everything. But like in retrospect, the kid who felt like he didn't know enough or had to go on this epic adventure really knew a lot more than he ever realized. And that's something that for anyone on this journey, I don't want to just call it a spiritual journey, because I realized that now it's so, I don't want to say it's mainstream, but it's been so oversaturated that there's a label put on it. Now it's spiritual, when everything that we do on this journey applies to literally everybody in the world. But yeah, it
Yeah.
just, to anyone on this journey, like when you are in that full card stage, like when you go on that hero's journey and discover yourself, you know, it's always important to really surrender. I mean, it's not going to be easy to do when you're starting off and you have so many questions and you're so curious, but you know, maintaining, knowing what I know now, and like I would have had so much more courage just trusting myself, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I need more answers, I need this. And I would just always bet on yourself, even if that means like you seemingly crash. You go through that journey for a reason. But to answer your question, you know what, I remember as a kid, I've always had a zeal to serve God. Like I've always felt like throughout, because my mom, of course, raised us, or just in the culture we're in, it's very like traditional Christian. Being from Nigeria, you're in Nigeria, you're either like Christian or Muslim. But like I grew up with that influence and just kind of really being more in that spiritual side of life. But when I say spiritual, kind of like incorporating that belief in angels and God, and like um but to a point where my mother was very traditional with this. So uh it would take it would form a lot, that philosophy would form a lot of how I grew up, I'd say. In the sense where we go to church every Sunday. we would skip from church to church because, we felt that there wasn't enough spirit in the church, and that, the people weren't in there really for the message. It was just like a social club, which,
Mhm.
right. So, that really left an impression. But one thing that was consistent was that I always for sure believed in God. And I always felt like, oh yeah, I'm one of God's soldiers. Like, I really like, this is what I'm meant to do. And I've always been like obsessed with personality profiling. As a kid, I had no idea what astrology was at all. Like, we were taught, like, or we were told that, um, certain things are of the devil. I didn't even know about astrology though. Like, I never heard that specifically, but there was no way that I would ever be in the position to even hear about it, which is why
Yeah.
I came into it pretty late in life. But
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, I would say, because it's interesting, like, I get on YouTube, and even now, like, I've performed live, when before I did astrology on YouTube. I rapped, and like, I would go to live shows in El Paso and perform live, do actual sets. So like, socially and online, most people see me online. I can totally just flow on the spot and communicate and just, express, very openly. So it would look like, oh, wow, he's extroverted and he's always been like, charismatic. But I've actually been pretty shy as a kid. Like, I never necessarily, I felt more, I now know what they mean when they say you tap into your moon later in life, because I was very unconscious of my moon. I didn't even know what it meant to have a moon sign. So like,
Mhm.
always felt I've always held myself back. I subconsciously always held back my psychic powers. The first time I experienced psychic ability that I can remember was the year after 9/11. But like, in and around that, I still didn't have any knowledge of psychic ability. And even when that happened, I didn't think of it like, oh, this is the first of it. It was just like an interesting occurrence where I was escorting someone to the bathroom because he was too young to go by himself. And he was shorter than me. So I had my left hand on his head, and he asked me how much money he had in his wallet. And I hear 21, 21, 21. I say 21, and he gives me this look like, there's no way you could have known that. And then I give him the same look like, there's no way I got that right. And we had that moment right there. And then I tried to do it twice more, and I got it wrong. And so I let that go. I was like, okay, I knew it wasn't a coincidence, because like, that was a real experience. Like, later on, I realized, even astrologically, how that scientifically happened with, like, tactile or psychometry, because I was actually touching him. And so that was the conduit, given the way my energy is. But like, um, because it was subconscious, like, when I tried twice after and tried to control it, it didn't work. But when I just let it happen. So outside of that, in retrospect, I would notice that it was very easy, especially as a kid, to just know what people are thinking or how they feel. And
Mhm.
and I didn't know at the time that was psychic ability. I felt like this is something everyone feels. And I would constantly suppress it because it would feel uncomfortable. It's like feeling naked, or like, oh crap, like, you can hear that I heard it. It's weird. It's weird. So
Yeah.
I did it so instinctually and unconsciously that now that I'm awakening to these abilities again, it's a lot more difficult to surrender, because I spent my whole childhood suppressing that. So like, stepping onto this journey has helped me really get out my own way and release a lot of this inhibition. But I mean, outside of that, I'm glad you asked this question, because I don't like to think about my childhood that much. It's not like, it's not really traumatic or anything, but I don't necessarily bring too much light to it, which I'm gonna definitely learn to integrate more. But that I can definitely say for sure too. I was definitely, and a lot of that had to do because, given in our culture, you know, being born with Nigerian parents, and that whole culture of, you know, strict, not that they're super strict, but just that whole like culture of that, and also the Christianity, we weren't allowed to be ourselves
Yeah.
ever. I feel that's not exclusive to just like African people or people like that. I think that was very generation wide, but like we had to put on a mask legitimately. I didn't realize that until, you know, coming into my late 20s, 30s. Not that, not even any, it's not anything I can't forgive my parents for. That was just the culture, right? But like I didn't realize how much I was suppressing who I really am and had to be a certain way to gain acceptance, or to you know, just be a certain way, until, you know, now I'm more myself than I've ever been, and
Mhm.
just kind of like feeling that contrast. But I can say, despite that, one thing that ironically has been consistent throughout, you know, being a kid till now, is my connection with God.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think we have a little bit of similarities in the backstory there. Yeah, I was also raised Christian, and I had strict Caribbean parents. So
Oh, word. Yeah.
yeah, it was the whole childs are supposed to be seen, not heard type
You know
situation.
what I mean more than I do.
Yeah,
There you
it was rough.
go. Oh, snap.
Yeah, the reason why I asked you about your childhood is like I'm a firm believer that like when you're your kid self, you're the most you'll be for a while.
Yeah.
If you haven't been traumatized or anything like that, because that shit does work on a kid.
No, you're right.
But I always like to ask that question because I feel like it gives everyone a real good base of like who we're talking to here,
You're right.
and that's it's awesome to hear about your intuitive experience because like like it manifests in so many different ways, and I definitely can relate with that feeling of like having to suppress a part of you that's always been like a part of you.
Right.
And when it starts sneaking out and the mask starts slipping, like to feel naked, like to feel like, oh
Mhm.
gosh, my weird is showing, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of star seeds sympathize with that. They definitely feel it because we came here to be different. Like you didn't come here to be the same. And so like it takes a lot of courage. And I think that it's a testament to how developed as a person you are to even come out and step out your box and openly just share everything with everyone like you do on a daily basis on your channel. So that's beautiful, man.
And just to kind of speak on the nature of, you know, feeling more like yourself as a kid, I'm realizing the skits I do, because as a kid I used to be into theater arts. I started in a play as like Ebenezer Scrooge, but it was like a world day version. So
Okay.
I was Ebenezer Litterbug, and it's blowing my mind. It's like, holy shit, like this is such a Saturnian character.
Oh yeah.
And now that I'm growing older, I'm like, wow, like I'm low key like Ebenezer Scrooge. Like I'm becoming the Saturnian. So it's like, wow, as a kid, I got casted to play this. And you know, the skits I do, I feel come from when I was young, and I would do like skits with my sisters. And we'd
Mhm.
just like pretend to act roles and whatever.
Dude, that's awesome. I personally I was a big toy player. Like I would do like the toys and like make a whole storyline that way, and I drew a lot. But like I
Awesome.
always thought like making videos was a really cool pastime. I never got to quite do it. So what kind of things like when you were younger, like what other like topics like did you feel like attracted to? Like what were some of the things that you were into?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think when I was younger, I was definitely a lot more into fantasy, but this is interesting. Like I remember falling in love with like the Oin. I have to read that again too, but the Oin Colfer series. Damn, how could I forget that already? Artemis Fowl. I remember that was fire. But
Mhm.
I wasn't allowed to like read Harry Potter and stuff like that. So I didn't find out about that until like later. So but I remember since high school, especially. Like after that experience I had, I
Mhm.
was just fully obsessed. I was fully obsessed with like learning how to harness my chi and psychic. We, of course, back then it was called like psi energy. And there was
Mhm.
only one person in my high school who I felt was fated to meet, who brought me to a website to kind of have me start learning about. This was back when, you know, to find information on lucid dreaming or making a psi ball, it wasn't on the internet like that. Like you had to, it wasn't the, like, it's amazing how readily available it is. You couldn't, there was maybe like one website, I forgot what it was called too. It had like the Neptune glyph, but it was like psi something.org. And that was the
Mhm.
only website at the time. And that was like the mecca kind of where people, it was a forum where people can kind of share their experiences, but it wasn't really like, it was just, this was like before 2010. This is like 2007, 2006, but I've always been obsessed with that. I would say before, as a kid, I was more into like playing uh Game Boy Advance and more handheld RPGs, but um yeah, once I hit high school, that was where that kind of kicked in.
I
And
see.
yeah, it really influenced a lot of how I think now. Because kind of growing up after that, that's when, before once again I knew about astrology. By the time I'm kind of coming into college after high school, I really started to get into personality profiling. Like that started to be a passion.
Mhm.
I always wanted to be like a counselor where I can like help people be their best self in a certain way,
Okay.
but like really
Yeah.
understand people.
I feel like because maybe you have this intuitive ability to kind of like see like almost like a stat block of people. And I don't know, but it's probably your intuition jumping out. So like that like drive to be a profiler, like that's what's up, man. I think that's definitely um like linked to that intuitive side. When did you feel like when did you like first feel like things were not what they seem? Like I know you said you had
Oh my
your like
God.
psychic occurrence,
Right.
but like when did you realize like, oh shit, reality's broke? Like
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. Especially because, ooh, yeah, I would say especially because personally, like, so yeah, personally, um you know, once again, being having that influence, I've always grown up, you know, with that sense of feeling like the devil is around, right? Like I've
mm,
always known my whole life, like there's that, with that Christian lens, like, you know, you have to stay vigilant in the word, like there's always that. But as I started, you know, after college, as I started to really like awaken more to seeing this really in religion, in science, and everything, it was very well I want to say it's been my whole life, but it didn't truly really come into the realization station until I started this journey 2012
wow.
and, 2011, 2012. And the thing about that is, because I want to say like 2010, 2011 too, like it all just kind of unfolded. But ever since I began that enlightenment, the realizations to this day have exponentially evolved and increased to where the
Wow.
realizations are just like every second out. It's wild.
That's awesome. Yeah, 2020, that 2012 time span, like you are far from the first person to bring that up, like for the Starseed community. Like I me too. Like
Right.
it was crazy because the thing is like all the aliens were telling us like, yo, 2012 is about to be some shit and the world's about to blow up or it's about to get weird. And I remember at that point in time I had just joined the military, but before that I was really into a bunch of spiritual stuff. And the
Mm,
whole reason why I went to the military was to go become my own man. And like
mm.
as I was going through training, like the whole 2012 thing happened. And I remember being like, dude, who knows? I could be dead right now. Like ever since then, like it's been weird.
No, it's very symbolic too, because you said the aliens,
Yeah,
and you said that very nonchalantly.
yeah. Like,
But like,
mm,
oh my bad. I was just gonna say that we're still in infrastructure and under authority systems that don't openly acknowledge this. So
yeah,
like, it conventionally, you would be seen as batshit fucking crazy right now because you're openly talking about, aliens telling you stuff, when realistically everything that you said is actually more normal than this fake normal shit that we're living right now.
yeah. Praise it, man. Like, when that was all going on, like, I at this time, like, I barely learned about the Starseed community, and I just knew that I was like very like empathic. Like, I just felt everybody's emotions. I didn't even know that was like a superpower. Like, I had no framework for that. But when I started like going on the internet, like I said, researching what I was experiencing, I did stumble upon a lot of like weird alien stuff, and I think the reason why it unfolded to me in the way of like aliens and like archangels and guides is because like maybe it's because I did have that Christian background. But I actually did some 7 Day Adventist stuff too, and they did hint on aliens at the end of time, and so like I think I was kind of like mentally set up to just be like it's gonna be all right. I think, but the biggest thing was getting rid of all the fear behind everything, and that was
Yeah, that's so true. That's a huge thing. A lot of the fear.
yeah.
I totally agree.
So next question, do you feel like your life has a theme? Like, do you feel like if it was a book, like what kind of book would this be?
I'm so glad you said that, because that's specifically how I've seen so far my life unfold. That now that I'm 31, the actual major book of my life is just starting. And that everything up until now is like the prologue. So like you have like the Lord of the Rings trilogy,
Uh-huh.
but then you also have like, what was it before then? The Hobbit.
Yeah, The Hobbit.
So I feel like everything up until now was The Hobbit, and now I'm about to step into the trilogy.
Yo, that's so fire. Like it gets me
Right?
excited because I'm 28, so like I'm still going through my Saturn return, and I'm like clearing up
Exactly.
stuff. And I'm excited to get to that 30 mark where like everything starts to recapitulate and start the journey. That's gonna be awesome. Either that
You're
or
gonna enjoy it. You're gonna fucking enjoy it. And that's kind of how I see it. It's like, imagine 60 years from now, and you're like a master wizard. And
yeah,
like you're just like on it, you're leading the new generation, you have this crazy stuff, but then the person who's reading the book is going back in time, and they're seeing the prelude story from before you were this wizard, when you didn't believe in your powers entirely and you just awakened to them. I feel like that's what I'm living right now.
yo, oh, you
Yeah,
literally snatched the words out of my mouth. Like
bro.
so I've been writing. I've been writing for like since I was a kid, like journaling, and I've been like writing this book, and I've gone so far into the future that like I've had my future like meet my past and like all sorts of
No
stuff.
way. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
awesome.
and well, that taught me quantum healing because
Right.
like
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found out that love, doesn't really follow the rules of time and space.
So you can
Uh,
send love back in time. That's so deep.
yeah, you can like literally because okay, for me growing up, like I didn't have a lot of friends, because I moved around a lot, and so
Right.
like there were some traumas that happened, and what I wound up doing was like I projected my future self in the past where the trauma happened, and then I had me and my child self deal with the trauma together.
Wow.
And so like I retroactively was fixing my timeline because I knew if I left it the way it was, like anytime I looked at my past, it would just break my heart. And so like you gotta that's the way of alchemizing those pains into victories, man, because we work on so many things on so many levels. We got to give ourselves credit and heal.
I'm very amazed too, because neurolinguistic programmers and psychotherapists would use that technique too, to really do great deep work, and for you to just nonchalantly like project that once again, like that's really awesome.
Yeah, welcome to Doop's Closet, where we just drop bombs on the
Ooh.
collective. Okay, so all right, so during this life so far, because you just got done with your Saturn stuff, we were just talking about cutting the fat from your life. What was the hardest lesson that you had to learn throughout your time here so far?
Oh my gosh. The hardest lesson so far, I'm gonna say, I think, is surrender and getting out my own way. Um, as far as like, because like everything I've ever really worried about, I realized life, at least, no, life is just so magical. I never had to really worry about it like that. And so it's like I I I'm learning to really let go of the need for control. Um I would say that's mainly it, and like learning to change the way I see into the possibilities of life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Have you gotten into chaos magic at all?
Barely. That's something I would love to get into. I'm just not sure. Out the only thing I hear about that really is sigil work.
Yeah, there is a lot of sigil work, but there are some books I can tell you outside of this conversation. But I will recommend this one to the whole collective. There's a book out there called Quantum Psychology. Read that
Oh,
shit first. It's
that
the
looks
most
fire.
important. Yo, this thing unlocks the quantum realm so that you can perform all types of magic. But like you have to understand this first because it talks about the isness of reality. Once you understand like quantum, like just quantum psychology period, you will actually begin to orient yourself in the chaos of I call it quindecum, like the infinite consciousness of everything. But it takes a lot of it takes a lot of different perspectives to orient yourself in this place. And I swear, guys, this is out to the audience. Check out this book, and then from there, you guys can go into like Prometheus Rising, which talks about recalibrating and restructuring the neural circuits in your brain. They're written by both by the same guy. And they're like $10 books. I'm sure you can find them free online, guys. So
Is it by Isaac or Robert?
Robert,
Robert Anton Wilson.
this guy's a mega genius.
Nice.
I don't believe in everything he says, but the thing is, like, guys, when you read this, your intuitive senses are gonna filter out what you need to know. Like, the quantum psychology one though is written masterfully. Like, the whole thing was a great read, but I believe that Prometheus Rising has a little bit more minutia to it. And I feel like both books are insanely self-empowering, and from there, like I said, chaos magic becomes like commonplace. And so it's important to learn the rules of that too. So that's my 2 cents. What kind of magic are you into? So you have astrology. What else you got?
Well, you know what? I just bought both books right now. So you know what? I'm in on the verge of defining that, because once again, like what I've learned is that the most magical experiences and manifestation I have are all subconscious. And I'm learning to be more aware of what I'm naturally doing, because I like to call it mystery magic, but personally, like astrology is really more so the science end of what I do. And then the intuitive magic end for me is through tarot and divination. But mainly, I'm stepping into this supernatural manifestation ability where
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to unconventionally bring concepts from out of reality here. So like I've written down on paper. And the thing I love about it is like I'm doing it at such a basic level that I'm doing something that anyone else can do. I feel like I don't feel like anything I'm doing is unique to me, and
Mm-hmm.
that right people can do um in their own way. But I mean, I've written down on a piece of paper, I'm gonna get a notification for $20 just purely to experiment in like 2 minutes, and to the T, it's happened. Uh, to the point that when I did it, I didn't want to do it again for a couple of days, just so I don't feel like I mess up a streak or anything. But and then I
Yeah.
right, but I've experimented with it to the point where I've almost got it down to a science. I legitimately spoke to the planet Jupiter, or the essence and spirit of Jupiter, and I've asked Jupiter, which is wild. Like, I'm talking to a fucking planet
Yeah.
that's called that in human, even though this has been seen as a god. So I'm like, yo, let me get like $300 and I'll sing and dance for you, which I realize is so hilarious. I'm asking like a Greco-Roman recognized god for something as small as $300, right? Just to be sent. And in less than 3 hours, I get $250, but from a Sagittarius woman, daughter of Jupiter, right?
Whoa.
So I know it came from Jupiter, right? And the first thing she asks is, "Hey, can I pay you $50 more?" Bam,
Let's
300.
go.
Right.
Let's
So
go.
serious. So I made sure to sing those 3 songs. But like seriously, like that made me realize, wow. And just instances throughout ever since I started this journey in my whole life, where anytime I would doubt, like the next moment I get smacked in the face with like a synchronicity
Yeah.
or a sign. So that's definitely helped me accept wholeheartedly the supernatural, just as a fact. And
Yeah.
so, I feel like I'm focusing more on manifesting, but I want to get knowledgeable of the different types of magic, and to really know how to delineate. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, yeah, great answer by the way. Like I'm a firm believer in personal magic. Like that mystery magic, that's the sauce I'm talking about.
Right.
Because these old school schools are well defined and all that, and they're great, but they are jump off points. Like
Yeah.
they're like if you would to take this into like an RPG, they're like base class. Like you start off in chaos magic. You started off in Christianity white magic, which is chaos magic anyway.
Right, right,
Uh,
right. I
and
like that you
and you
said that.
branch that shit off. Okay, you learn as
Yeah.
much as you can, and you combine it because we're all born to be master wizards. Like this shit is for us. It's our divine birthright. We're star seeds, all of us,
Yep.
and it's a personal development. So that's really cool to see you working on that. It, just a quick thing for the audience, guys. Magic kind of activates collectively. So like as certain magic groups or magic classes get introduced to the collective through TV shows, through major events, they start to activate. So the some that I've seen that have really hit off this last year is quantum magic, chaos magic, sigil magic, and I'm talking about runes, normal handwritten sigils, and a lot of like movement slash ritual magic has been very popular
Like
on
ceremonial magic
exactly,
or
yeah, ceremonial
okay.
has definitely been big for a long time because of Hollywood,
Right.
but now the collective is starting to be able to empower themselves with it.
That's
um
awesome.
and so yeah, dude, I like it's important to know and to keep your eyes open about like where the collective is looking so that you can use that type of magic to kind of match the collective's focus so you can wrangle as much of that energy as you want. I'm Pisces, so like I'm very collective based when I choose my magic class for the day. And
Right.
but like these things are meant for you guys to grow and expand. So like, okay, question. When did you realize that magic was not evil? Because that was a hard one for me, especially with the
Oh,
Christianity background.
yeah. You know what? I love that you're asking that. Um, the thing is, I've always been fascinated with magic. I didn't understand it in that way until I started doing astrology, right?
Mm, mm,
But I've always the magic, the way we've been introduced to magic before was like the witchcraft.
yeah.
So it wasn't until I actually met someone before I like fully went into astrology, and I was on the bridge of like, just realizing the Bible isn't as inerrant as I thought. My sister introduced me to Santero, or someone who did that at the time. And he completely demystified all the views I had at the time. And that's what really initiated me into that wisdom.
Wow, that's awesome. It's really cool to hear like when a teacher kind of just shows up and it just throws you into this whole new realm of understanding,
Yep.
and it opens up so many doors for you. Can you describe to me more about like what happened during that time? Because that sounds really interesting to me.
Yeah, it was a life-changing period in my life, because at that time I was having to lie to my mother because I couldn't tell her that I was meeting somebody who represented the witchcraft that she was so vehemently against.
Oh man.
And so, I was watching him, read tarot for clients and completely like help them in their life, and like, you know um go to people's homes and do house cleanings, everything that I've always been passionate, like this has been what I've wanted to do for so long, even as a Christian. So like that really blew my mind. And you know fast forward to now, because I actually ended up going to Puerto Rico, getting initiated in that craft, but fast forwarding now, I kind of did feel in some cases he did use me for money.
Mm.
But I feel that regardless, and that could just be more miscommunication, he would probably see it a different way. But regardless, he was sent on my path to learn from. I still had to go through that experience. I still had to, I wasn't meant to live that double life,
Yeah.
but it was instrumental, because he even told me that, oh, screw astrology, like you guys rely on transits, we can just work with directly with the Orisha. And even as he would say that, I would laugh, because it's like, wow, this is exactly your astrological archetype, which it just made me believe in astrology.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
You're,
legit.
like, you're such a character right now.
Oh, like straight up. It was that period for me was such research. Like I'm still a researcher now, but
Uh-huh.
it was just so much, it was such a condensed learning period that I'm really grateful for, because it led into, a lot of how I'm really good now, and really, learn from the best teacher of all, experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear you on the teacher scenario. Sometimes we have these teachers that teach us like the big lesson of like opening the doors and all that, and then also they teach you like watch your money.
Yeah,
Like dang,
seriously.
just extracurricular activities there.
And I wouldn't necessarily, like, I've seen him, he would take me on certain trips to do certain work. So I know there's a real element to it. But it
Yeah,
also, I got to see the light and the dark, let's just say.
yeah, yeah. Well, that means he was a good teacher.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Oh, that's funny though. Well, I'm happy you definitely learned from it, I'm sure.
No, I definitely did. It was definitely a learning experience. One of the best.
Okay, next question. What okay, do you remember your dreams very well?
No, and here's the thing. I
Mm,
think I'm gonna go on a tolerance break because I smoke a lot of weed, and I think when I stop, I might. But I do keep a dream log. Every now and then I do remember certain dreams. But
uh-huh.
this is why I respect, anytime I do readings with like Pisces or people with a lot of Pisces, they have lucid dreams very often. They can astral project. Like it made me really look up to that energy. I don't have any Pisces in my chart. So
Uh-huh.
even when I imagine, I don't really, you know what I'm saying? But I know it is like a muscle I can flex and stretch. One story I do have is that when I was in Kansas in my uncle's place, so this is like when I was 15 or 16, I saw an article on how to astral project. And so I did this method where you need to make your body go to sleep, but your mind has to be awake.
Yeah.
And so they said that at some point you'll start to feel a rumble, and then boom, you leave your body. So this is the only time I ever tried this, and it's the only time this has ever happened to me. The only other time this has ever happened to me is when like I'll be in a hypnagogic state in between awake and asleep, and I think
Mhm.
that I'm awake, but I'm actually asleep, and I can hear like people's voices. Really weird, but like,
Whoa.
yeah. that very first time, everything started to rumble. And it was weird because like I could hear voices around me yelling, but there was nothing around me. And I felt everything vibrating, but I never left my body. And that was one of those experiences. Like throughout my life, have been in life-defining experiences like that. That by the way, my uncle, one of my other uncles, Aquarius, told me that everything that happens in this life can be explained by science. So I'm sure, like, obviously, being in a hypnagogic state like that, there's going to be an explanation for that. But it's also the knowing that there's so much more of a deeper understanding that's, you know, beyond science, literally. And I feel like I've always been on the verge, and that was one of those such moments. Then I've actually had an experience of astral projecting, but I didn't know I was astral projecting until I woke up, where I've gotten out my body and I thought I was awake, and it's happened again. But I've never fully immersively astral projected. And as far as dreams, I audio record whatever dreams I can remember, but it's few and far between that happens that I remember.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. I always like to hear about like where people are at dream wise, because I feel like that's one of the hardest things for the collective to kind of grab a hold of. And I know that's because of like our environment, whether it's food or what we smoke. You know, I smoke a lot of weed too. So like I definitely know what you mean by the head fog. It comes in. One of my advice is CBD. If you take CBD drops like a tincture before bed,
Nice.
that will clear out your receptors, and that will open you up for more dreaming. Another one could be melatonin. That's a natural supplement, and I take it every night. That shit's fun.
Nice.
It makes me feel amazing when I wake up. So, and it's really cheap. You can get it at Walmart. Yeah, like, but that's really interesting. When it comes to astral projecting, I noticed that for one, I don't really like hanging out in the astral plane that much because
Right.
there's a lot of weird things out there. But maybe you'll have more of a chance. Have you ever gone inside of yourself, like the innerverse?
No, I feel like I get in my own way, because anytime I try to do that, I feel like I think about it too much. So I feel like, did I do it long enough? And like, to me, it's just like I'm meditating, but I don't really have, I don't know how to really, I'm just learning to surrender and let whatever comes up. But to me, nothing comes up. And so I feel like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it long enough, or I'm not surrendering fully, or I guess it's just something I imagine. But I know that with dreamwise, I have recurring dreams of being in like school. I'm always in some kind of school, and it kind of moves. I know ever since I graduated, that stopped, but like it's definitely been a theme. But yeah, other than that, I'm glad you asked that. Like I feel like I'm gonna have this awakening anime moment where I tap into my inner verse and access my core power.
All right, literally, as you're saying this, like my crown chakra is on fire. So I got to tell you the technique. So right here, all right, here's an easy way to get in touch with your innerverse. Is for the audience. Is for my boy. Here he goes. So literally, just relax yourself, get in a good, comfortable position. Put your hands in whatever comfy hand modality you can, but do something with your hands. This will help you ground yourself so you don't fall asleep. And but make sure it's comfortable. And what I like to do, this works for me. When I first started trying to get in touch with my innerverse, the innerverse stems from the heart. So you have to focus in on that heartbeat. If you can't feel your heartbeat just naturally without touching your heart, just do that instead until you get the hang of it. But after a while, you'll be able to find your heartbeat all the time. And then during that time, while you when you're literally you're just hearing and feeling your heartbeat, you're switching your mind from thinking to doing, because when you're doing, you're not thinking. So what you're thinking about is doing the listening of heartbeat, if that makes any sense. Like you're feeling your heartbeat. That act of feeling is the thought that you're doing. And so
Okay.
your brain will eventually stop thinking because you're feeling, and you're like reversing your brain flow. That's when you know you're in your heart space, when your brain stops and you're like, okay, I'm just thinking about, or I'm just feeling the heartbeat. And once you're there, you can slowly go for the hands and anchor yourself in, And in your head, just ask. You're just like, hey, anyone in there? And I guarantee, like for me, for me, that shit turned on almost instantly. But you have to explore. Your whole body is the universe. So I always get people that have a trouble like projecting outward. Well, that's because your universe is on the inside, because you're a high ranked soul. That's just how it works. So you've been trying to project outward, but the place you're trying to go is on the inside.
Right.
And then from there, dude, then you can start labeling parts in your body that you visited, and then like you can set up a whole shop. It's wild in there. But the thing is, you have to start by trying. And so yeah, that's just a little word of advice to the audience out there. Definitely, the innerverse is dope. Okay, it's the most safest place. It's your place. You're literally king of the castle, and your whole body is is like it's audio. It's a smart body. You have a smart body. So like once you make peace with your flesh, you can really start to do a lot of things. But flesh has a lot of taming to be tamed. It is an animal in a sense.
Mm.
How about you? What do you how do you feel about your body and your skin? I know a lot of starseeds have a lot of dysphoria about like their human skin. I know I definitely did. For a while, I definitely wasn't in tune with my body, and it hasn't been until these last couple of years that I've been getting back in tune with it.
I've been in
How
my
do you?
head my whole life.
I lived my whole life thinking that I was my thoughts, and this awakening journey has been awakening the fact that my body has been a treasure this whole time, and I haven't been tapping into it like I should. So everything you said brought chills and was important to me, because that's my biggest block, like learning to listen and tap into my body. I've literally seen my body move on its own to where like I'm conscious of it, independent of it, and it just blew my mind. So
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, the our bodies are hardwired to keep us alive, but they are an animal. Like there's a reason we get cravings. There's a reason like we get
reptilian
those thoughts.
brain,
Hmm?
reptilian brain, no?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, dude. Okay, so how do you feel your relationship with your mind is? That's the next question.
So I feel like I've always had this very amazing relationship with my mind, where my mind has always gotten in my own way. I've identified with my thoughts. I feel like my mind is, I'm learning to let my mind work for my heart instead of be so mentally ruled. But I've come to embrace that I have the mind of a child, and I really want to accentuate more of that magical awareness. But what I'm learning is how to align my mind, body, and soul.
Wow. That's the goal, definitely for sure, man. And the fact that you have the mind of a child, that's a great thing. That's an asset. Child minds are so infinitely creative and flexible and malleable.
True.
That means you have a magic brain. So kudos. If you had the mind of an old man, it would be all hard like a piece of gum. And a child brain a child
Wow.
brain is nice and malleable, and it's fresh for new connections. So it sounds like you really do work a lot on your neuroplasticity, like learning new things and keeping fresh, because that's what that comes from. So that's beautiful to hear that. How do you feel your connection is with your spirit?
Oh, you know what? And I'm so glad you asked. So, what I'm obsessed with doing more than ever right now is manifesting my spirit, learning how to utilize my life force and my key. And what I realized is my mind is my spirit.
Mm.
So I'm learning how to manifest spiritual life force energy to enhance my mind's function.
Whoa, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Because so can you explain more about that?
Yeah.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
I was reading a book. I kind of came to that realization in a book. And
Uh-huh.
I know that many people have different theories on this. Some people think that the mind is different from the spirit, and then you have like the body and the soul. And so I realized that I think the sun sign in astrology shows the nature of your spirit. And the Pisces sun is a divine spirit. The Gemini sun is an enlightened spirit. And personally, it opens up, wait a minute. Okay. It opens up more so of, there we go. Sorry. That I read in the book, right? The whole mind being your spirit. But personally, what recently, and not like definitively, it was just like their realization, like I guess to them, the universe is more mental. And so the spirit expresses itself through the mind. But personally, what really brought this home to me and brought back full circle my belief in Christ is the science of the Trinity, where you have the body, you have the soul, and you have the spirit. And the soul, the body is the physical image of the invisible soul, and it manifests your life force. It manifests the spirit, which is the active principle of both. And the body has the brain, which cognitively processes what you're aware of. And the spirit is like that active expression. So, yeah, I'm learning to kind of like see my spirit as I'm learning to see my mind as an aspect of my spirit.
That's really cool. It sounds like it's like this process of mind, body, soul individuation is happening
Yeah.
in you, and that's beautiful. I personally went through that journey as well. My mind, body, and spirit have three separate, distinct, like personalities.
Wow.
And when I close my eyes, like I see them because I have necklaces of their symbols, so I can, like, I've been so close to it that I can kind of refer to it whenever I want.
Wow.
So like just the fact that you're even going down that line, like that speaks to me, telling me that, like, one, I'm not crazy, and two, like that's a process that is going to turn out uniquely for a lot of people. A spirit mind could be very, very powerful.
Right.
The essence for me of my mind is this, I call it like the infinite creator, like the whatever, the giant what if. And my mind loves to express that. My spirit is like this thing that drives me forward, and is like teaching me constant lessons. Like he's my future self just teaching me, and he changes all the time because there's always different versions of me trying to teach me something new. And so like it's just, yeah, it's a constant rotation of teachers. And then my body, I have this I call it the void, because the outside world is actually a manifestation of our brains picking up signals or frequencies from the outside. So like everything is actually an illusion. So technically my body, I perceive it as a void, and that void, with it comes a lot of, like, potential to manifest that thing that the brain wants to create. And so like for me, instead of like my spirit and my mind being very close, it's actually my body and my mind are very close, and my spirit kind of like teaches both of them how to play along. So that's really interesting how yours is developing in a different fashion, based off of your own background.
No, and what I love about what you said is in terms of surrender, I'm learning to kind of listen more to my spirit, because I've identified so much with my spirit. I'm starting to learn, like, wait, I'm a soul that has a body and spirit. And so I'm learning to listen to my thoughts instead of just streaming and being it, and really, aligning both. So I'm grateful for what you said. And thanks again for the book recommendations.
No problem, man. I just like to, like, I ask these questions to kind of see where my family's at, on their development, and like anything that I might feel that I have a puzzle piece for, like it's my, like I feel obligated, like I gotta give it to you. It's my opportunity, and you have no clue. You're triggering so many things for me. Like after I do these episodes, like I usually have to like take a day off because I get so activated on so many levels. It's like we're merging akashas by talking about these like these high esoteric values. So yeah, like thank you again. All right, you ready for another deep question?
Yes, sir.
All right, what do you think happens after death?
That's a really good question. I've come to accept that the afterlife is a thing. I've
Mhm.
come to accept fully in the whole notion of um spirits, that after you die and you take that final breath, your spirit leaves its body, and now it can traverse transpersonal realms, and these transpersonal realms definitely speak to the realm of the afterlife, and maybe certain realms where souls you know wait judgment, or I don't necessarily believe in the a rigid heaven hell structure in the way it's conventionally seen, but I do believe in the afterlife. I do definitely believe that mediumship is real. I do believe in soul reapers. I believe that that's a thing. I believe that exorcists are real, and I think that when you die, a lot of your Saturn in the natal chart and North Node determines your karmic path and the next life you're headed into. But I do believe the nature of how you die is important. But when you pass, your soul is weighed to judge the quality of the actions you've done. And depending on how pure your heart and soul is, that determines, whether you go to heaven or uh not that I believe in this rigid reincarnation cycle, but whether you need more lessons, maybe in a certain dimension. And here's the thing, like, I don't necessarily believe that everyone has an incarnation on Earth too. Like, I don't believe you come back and forth on Earth. There's so much in this universe.
Yeah.
Maybe you might have an incarnation as a guide. Maybe you might have an incarnation as a dew and a dewdrop. You know what I mean? Like, you're now leaving the third dimensional chain that grounded your spirit. So, I mean, it's such a really fascinating question. It would be beyond our ability to really speak on here. But the best way to answer your question is I've come to accept wholeheartedly that there is a Lord of the afterlife, and that there is a judgment process, and that there is a judgment day. The whole notion that dead spirits will be resurrected to be judged. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I have always had this feeling that there was going to be like some type of judgment. But after like learning as much as I have about like the quantum realms and the I don't know, like just everything else, I really feel like that judgment is definitely self-judgment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, did we sit down and
absolutely.
because my biggest fear was like some other person was going to judge me. And this is
Yeah,
just for the
exactly.
audience out there. It's gonna be you guys. It's you who's gonna judge you guys. You have
It-
to
It's like
really,
you're leaving that individualization, right? You're
yeah,
you're you're ridding your ego. You're going back to the ocean. So it's like an aspect of you is judging you.
yeah. And that's well said. And I think that's I think it's a really big part of it. I believe that once we get that judgment, I don't think it's gonna be like a pass fail situation. I think you're gonna wind up going somewhere that vibratorily matches what you're ready to actually accomplish next. Um, I I had another like stream of belief about death, where like death is actually seamless and we die like every night when we go to bed.
Oh,
And
wow.
so like, in an alternate reality, you may wake up and die on some timeline, but like you die every night in your dreams. Like you just don't remember them. So like you really wouldn't know. You wouldn't know if you've died because why would you? You know what I mean? If truly the universe is composed of a merciful, loving spirit, why would he make you feel the bite of death? I can understand why you can see the death and fear the death, because of course the ego needs motivation to stay alive. But I fully believe that, like, what was it? Have you seen American Gods?
No, but I heard it's a really good show.
Bro, it's baller. One of the things they kind of bring up in was like how you can die and like you won't even know it. Like 1 second you'll be pulling some cereal off the shelf, and the next second like you'll be looking at yourself pulling the cereal off the shelf, and you've like fallen somehow and like broke your neck. And like the Grim Reaper's like, yep, you sure fucked up there. Well, let's get moving. And like I fully do believe that the sting of death is not what we believe it to be. And I feel like the reason why Hollywood, society, and a lot of these religions in our culture has kind of set us up to fear it is to stop us from doing what needs to be done. The fear
And
of
just
death
a
is,
huge misunderstanding too.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
just huge attachment. I really believe that too, just in a sense where um because we identify with our physical bodies, it's hard for people to accept that you can die multiple times in one traditional lifetime because you're a spirit. So the essence within or that's inhabiting the body can go through several deaths to where you're not the same being in that body. um or just like you said, like it can happen so subtly or fast, you may think you're still alive. Like there's a good number of spirits that are dead that don't even know they're dead. Like they think they're still alive, and that's something that science hasn't been in a position to really explore because there's no tool that can measure a ghost. Like you can't necessarily quantify physically metaphysical phenomena. This is why Pisces is Pisces and Virgo is Virgo. So I'm really excited because we're going to be the first people to really expand that knowledge and to really unveil the mysteries of that.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I definitely feel it. I feel like the collective is ready for hope in different aspects. And I believe that we are a collective of very colorful people
yeah,
with a lot of very talented souls out there. But the biggest thing is, yeah, it's that fear. The fear is literally locking us all down. And it takes this type of structure, a coming out, a braveness about who you truly are, and to stand up in your sovereign truth, and for what you believe in. That is what is going to send ripples down the collective. That's what's gonna activate these unseen things, and tap into it because it's your divine uniqueness, your divine authenticity.
it's amazing too because I realized that personally, it's been a worldwide shame, guilt, manipulation matrix,
Oh, yeah.
a literal guilt matrix, shame matrix, where it's like you have to feel a certain way. And breaking out of that, a lot of my awakening, realized as a kid, I felt like you just had to listen to that, like you had to be that way. And then my awakening made me realize, no, you don't. You can flip the middle finger up to that shit. And that just changed the game for me. I used to feel so awkward around people who would do that as a kid. Like, you're not supposed to do that. But I didn't realize at the time, like they were being themselves, like they were rebelling against that for a reason. But yeah, it really changed the game for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, just standing up and for just rebellion's sake or whatever you believe in is super important. And being able to vocalize it and even do it peacefully. I
Yeah.
mean, like prove these people that like your words can really push them to action. That's more power to you. Um, that's yeah, that's beautiful. Well put. All right, so I have one last question and then we'll wrap it up for like a post little chat. Um, okay, so during your time here, you've learned so many things, you've experienced so many hardships. What do you believe the purpose of this lifetime was for your soul?
The purpose I'm realizing from my story is to innovate and revolutionize science and how it is taught. I'm definitely going to be someone who, like so many others of us, will bring magic into reality in ways that are accepted, not even just in the mainstream, but just change the way we've learned about everything. And I'm just kind of grateful to be a part of us doing that work. And yeah, this what I'm realizing is the major theme of this is community and networking and connecting with the, other people who also share this vision, and to share that knowledge, and aliens.
And aliens.
Yes. Can't forget
Oh,
that.
I never asked you what kind of starseed do you believe? What flavor are you?
Yeah, so like I'm very fascinated about starseeds because I was very skeptical about that at first. I was like, you motherfuckers are making this shit up. And then I actually had a starseed reading, and that's when I realized that it's based on the actual like constellations or like around there. So I know that as a Gemini, I'm connected directly with Orion.
Mhm.
My Taurus rising actually is directly connected with the Palladians, and I have certain connections with Sirius and also Vega. So
Oh,
I'm a noob when it comes to that, but I'm slowly learning more. I'm open to it. I'm open to learn more about it.
well, I feel like you are like, because I'm by no means a starseed guru. I don't know anything about anything when it comes to that shit. I just know that they exist. There's many different flavors, and some people know. I think that one of those things, or maybe many, because your soul goes in so many different places. They'll call out to you, and the thing is, your family will start to reach out to you. Me, I know for a fact that I have a lot of Arcturian in me, but I also have a little bit of Lyran. So that's because I have like a big cat theme for some reason in my life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
just been passed down in my family. Like they're all just cat people.
I'm sorry. I know I'm about to enjoy this quantum psychology book because I just read like less than a page of the introduction, and I already have chills in my body because one of the most major awakenings that I've had is, oh my gosh, this is all fake science. This is all fake science. And it's like, everything that's been compiled is inconclusive because of we're filtering it through our human awareness. And I'm reading now in the introduction that the author of the book is like, yeah, every field of science should be prefaced neurophysics, neurochemistry, neuroastronomy, because the human nervous system filters every sensory perception with the conceptual grid and creates a bias in the reception of every sensory signal or measurement, basically on the same line of what I've been feeling the past like 2 years, my whole life.
Boom. Yes, and that is why like my spirit guide is the void for my body, because I understand
Wow.
this shit ain't real.
Wow. That's
Welcome
deep.
to the club.
That is so deep.
You are always invited.
Right. I feel like it's easy for Pisces sons to live that too.
Honestly, it made sense. Like once I read it, I was like, oh, that's what it means. But like I said, it's getting that perspective. It's touching all these other places so that you can see like how to orient yourself in this weird space.
Right.
So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up here, and then we'll take it to post. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you have for the collective before we wrap it up?
No, I am very grateful. Thank you again for having me.
No problem. Again, welcome to Doop's Closet.